Hello and welcome. I am Miss Biz, and today we are going into Sork School number 3. This is all about what to wear. I'm going to be talking about gear and all the different enchants and traits and everything having to do with gear for your Magicka Sorcerer DPS in Sork School number 3. Of course, what you're seeing right now is me trying on a few different costumes, but we have something a little more serious to talk about, and that's our gear. The first thing I want to talk about is the absolute basics. I'm not going to talk about sets yet. I just want to talk about basic gear rules and things you want to follow, no matter what set you're actually wearing. A Magicka Sorcerer build in ESO looking for DPS will be using 2 Destruction Staves, one on the front bar, one on the back bar. What is important is that your front staff is actually an Inferno or a Flame staff. No matter what set it is, you're going to want an Inferno front staff. On your back bar, you have a little bit more room to play with. You can go with a Lightning or Fire staff. A Fire staff is actually going to do slightly more damage, but a Lightning staff is going to help knock things off balance and do a couple other things, so especially useful if you're solo or just helping out your group. So you can go Lightning or Fire Inferno staff on your back bar. For your sets, you are going to be wearing 2 full 5-piece sets with fancy staves, or you are going to have a monster set and 2 full 5-piece sets if you do not have fancy staves, or you might only wear one of those 5-piece sets on your front bar, meaning it only works when it's part of your front bar. Now, different sets require different setups, so when we start to talk about exactly which sets, we'll talk about what they can be used as. The next thing I want to talk about is no matter which sets you're wearing or what your gear setup is, you're going to want to wear 5 light pieces of armor, 1 medium piece of armor, and 1 heavy piece of armor. This will make sure that you're getting all kinds of extra bonuses, specifically for 1 passive. In the Undaunted guild skill line, there is a passive called Undaunted Metal. This increases your health, stamina, and magicka by 2% per type of armor that you have equipped. So if you have one of each equipped, you will get a 6% bonus. Keep in mind, this is once you've put both points into the passive. The very first point will be half this and be a 3% bonus. To show you this, look at my maximum health, magicka, and stamina. And as you can tell right now, I do not have food active. That's why my health and magicka are so low. Here you can see I have 12,597 health. Let me remove one of my heavy pieces. Now, I only have 12,130. If I remove my medium piece, I only have 11,897. This may not seem like a lot, but when you're dealing with even bigger numbers, like let's say your magicka pool, it definitely shows and helps. As you can see, I go from 36,220 magicka to 30,534. Keep in mind, I also just took away 1,096 magicka due to the set that I just removed. But nonetheless, it is still a huge drop in magicka because it is a percentage bonus. Something else that helps out with wearing one of each gear is that you can then go ahead and grab the gear passives that do not require 5 pieces of it. For example, in the heavy armor, I have Resolve, Constitution, and Juggernaut. Here you can see that for each piece of heavy armor I have equipped, which is only 1 piece, I get 2% higher max health. That's huge. That's awesome. Constitution increases my health recovery by 4% and also helps me restore resources. Now, if I had to pick only one because I don't have enough skill points to pick them, I would definitely be picking this max health bonus. In the medium armor, they also have some bonuses that you can pick up even if you're not wearing 5 pieces, though they may not be quite as important as the heavy armor one. If you are using crafted sets, I just want to bring something to your attention, and that it technically can matter just to get bigger bang for your buck on which pieces you make heavy, medium, and light. Here is a good example of what I mean. Here we can see 2 different pieces of light armor that are both epic, purple quality, but one has an armor rating of 1,179 Another one has an armor rating of 674. Some items just have bigger armor ratings than others. Obviously, heavy armor is going to give you the most armor, so which piece offers you the most armor? Chest. Chest always offers the highest armor rating in all the different types of armor, heavy, medium, light. So if you have a choice, chest is the best armor piece to make heavy. Of course, this probably only works out if you're using a crafted set, so I'll go over in case you're not as well. For your medium armor, you're also still going to want something that is pretty high in terms of its armor value, because medium armor also gives more armor than light. Medium, you have actually a couple different options. You'll notice your headpiece has 1179, your legs have 1179, your shoulders have 1179, and your feet slot have 1179. You can choose any of those to make your medium piece, or if you are just, a fashionista and you cannot deal with that heavy chest piece, make sure you choose one of these as your heavy piece as well. Now, the two lightest pieces that are not really a concern in a Magicka build, but just so you know, because this comes into concern when you're building a tank and whatnot, is gloves and waist. As you can see, waist has an armor value of 505, gloves of 674. So they are definitely the smallest armor rating, and ones we'll definitely want to leave light. So as a quick recap, if you're using crafted armor, make your chest heavy and make your head, legs, shoulder, or feet pieces medium. If you are not using a crafted set, but are using a monster set, you'll notice that both your head and shoulder have the same armor rating, so it doesn't actually matter which one you use as heavy and medium. Doesn't matter, just go ahead and whichever one you happen to get first. Now that we've covered the armor types that we want to be using on our Magicka Sorcerer, we're going to go over our traits. What you want to use for traits is either all divines, and I'm just talking armor for now, all divines, or infused on big, divines on little. Once again, what is big and what is little? This is actually a different list than the armor rating. Some of the pieces I'm about to show you have different enchant qualities, and some are divines and infused, so please don't get too stuck on the exact enchant values. Just notice if it's lower or higher, because there is actually only big and small rather than the quite a few different tiers like there is for armor rating. As you can see, legs give me 954 max health, so it is definitely considered a big piece. Head gives me 802. This is still a big piece. Then the other one is jerkin. See, this one has infused, so it's even bigger, but another big piece. So if you are going to be using any infused armor, make it your leg, head, or chest. Okay, all of those three or any of those three, if you happen to pick up infused, can't make it divines, or you just like infused, go ahead, make those three infused. Everything else, which means your shoulder, hand, waist, and feet, is going to have a smaller enchantment rating, which means you want to make sure those are divines. Now we are going to cover jewelry traits. So what is best for jewelry traits? There is a lot of information out there, and Bloodthirsty is really good. Now, if you want it to only be one of your jewelry pieces or all three, that is up to you in testing. I've seen builds with all the variety, but as this is a beginner's guide, honestly, Arcane is great. I personally am considering maybe using 2 Arcane and 1 Bloodthirsty trait, but really, I promise you that Arcane is a really solid trait for your jewelry. Go ahead and use it. As for all of your staffs or your weapons, go ahead and make all of your staffs infused. Now, if you happen to pick up a staff and you can't retrade it or whatever, and it's something like precise or sharpened, go ahead and use it anyways, but infused would be best. If you generally play by yourself and do a lot of solo content, I would actually really recommend the sharpened trait rather than infused. But if you play with groups, infused is definitely a good one to do. Now we're going to talk about enchants. What enchants do I suggest you wear on all of your different gear? First, I'm going to cover armor. Armor, I always recommend putting Magicka enchants on all of your armor. Sometimes you can use a health enchant, but I find then when I pick up a new piece of gear or maybe change sets, it sets all of my attributes out of whack, so I prefer to actually go ahead and change what my health is by using my attribute rather than enchant. So go ahead and make all of your armor have Magicka enchants on it if it doesn't already. For jewelry, what enchants would you like on your jewelry? Now, here's the deal. Lots of people play with 3 spell damage enchants on their jewelry. Of course, that's going to be best. That is very, very, very hard to sustain, especially if you're a newer player or whatever. If you are leveling, or you are just brand new Champion Point 160, go ahead and just leave whatever enchant is on there, which is probably the recovery enchant or maybe spell reduction. Go ahead and leave it on there. But if you're looking to increase your damage here, change some of your jewelry to spell damage. I personally recommend 2 spell damage enchants and 1 Magicka recovery enchant. Generally for DPS, Magicka recovery is superior to cost reduction. If you are brave and feel like you have great sustain, go ahead and make all 3 spell damage. On that note, if you are having trouble sustaining, go ahead and make 2 of them Magicka recovery and 1 of them spell damage. If you have no Magicka, it's not really going to help you because you can't do any attacks. Now on your weapons. I really don't want to show you the weapons that my sorcerer is using because my sorcerer isn't using the right enchants on her weapons. But here you go. On your backstaff, you're going to want to be using Absorb Magicka. I promise you, you really, really want Absorb Magicka. It's going to help you sustain. On your front staff, your Inferno staff, you're going to want a fire enchant, possibly a shock enchant. If you do not need a backbar Absorb Magicka enchant, make 1 staff have a fire enchant and 1 have a shock enchant. And there you go. If you have old gear that you previously had that has a weapon damage enchantment on it, it's fine. Leave it as is. It's fine. It's still a really good enchant. It's just that the fire or the shock enchant is a little bit better. And hey, it's now really, really hard to sustain, so the Absorb Magicka enchant is usually really good. Keep in mind, if you're going to use the Absorb Magicka enchant, please use it on your back bar, which will be either lightning or fire. And then on your front bar, go ahead and use shock or fire enchant. Now we are going to discuss quality. You'll notice that all of the Burning Spell Weave I'm showing you is arcane. Do I own any legendary? Sure. It appears I own 1 legendary piece. But you'll notice that I actually used Burning Spell Weave on my Magplar for a really long time. And I hit really high numbers. And I never actually upgrade it to legendary. I highly recommend that if you are in your forever gear, what you improve the most is your weapons. Your weapons are worth improving to legendary. Your gear is probably not worth it. Please do not think that changing all of your gear to legendary makes a huge difference. It doesn't. It's just going to make you go broke. What does make a big difference is making your weapons legendary. So if you're going to make anything higher quality, make it your weapons. Let's say maybe you're rocking blue gear. If you are rocking blue gear, maybe make your weapons purple. Like, weapons, it's the most important for your weapons to be a higher quality. It just matters the most. Once again, also in between Champion Point 150 and 160 gear for crafted, if you can't afford a Champion Point 160 for all your gear right now, make sure your weapons are Champion Point 160 and your armor is Champion Point 150. It'll just take a lot less materials. But like I said, please do not go make all of your gear legendary. Please don't. It's a huge waste of gold. That is something you only do like when you're right at the top of the top, or you're trying to squeak out that extra 500 DPS, or, you're just rich because you played the game for a really long time, whatever. Don't think that you need to make all of your gear legendary. You do not. I do recommend, if you're playing at a higher level, to have it to at least be epic, and for your weapons to be legendary. But if you're just playing, you're, a little bit casual, not playing at a super high level, honestly, like purple weapons would probably work, though legendary is always better, and blue or purple gear is plenty enough. Like, don't get too hung up on upgrading your gear. While you are leveling a Magicka Sorcerer, I really recommend the Seducer set. The Seducer set will help you be able to sustain, which will be quite difficult as you're leveling, and then whatever light set you find in the zone you're leveling in, just wear that with this, and upgrade your Seducer maybe every 10 levels. Seducer is a crafted set that only requires 3 traits to make. What I'd recommend is making a heavy chest piece, Seducer, another armor piece that is medium in Seducer, and then make both your weapons in Seducer. And then for all the rest of your armor, just use whatever light set, Magicka set you find in the zones you're leveling in. Possibly make a new Seducer set about every 10 levels. At the lowest levels, I wouldn't even upgrade it. If you do want to upgrade it, I'd only make it green, maybe blue. Most likely green. The Seducer set is a crafted set that requires 3 traits known on each piece. So it's actually really simple to be able to find this and craft it yourself. If you can't, I guarantee you some of your guild members can craft this. You'll find the crafting station in Grotwood, Stormhaven, or Deshawn. Congratulations, you just hit champion point 160. What I really recommend you do is drop that Seducer set you've been wearing all along and go craft yourself some Julianos. Julianos can be crafted in Hrothgar, or if you know someone with a bunch of different crafting stations in their house, probably in a guildmate's house, it requires 6 traits known. You may know this already by now, but there's also a good chance you do not know 6 traits for all the pieces that you want. So go ahead and actually ask a guildmate or ask in zone chat if anybody will craft you this if you supply the materials. Most likely, someone will. Julianos is an amazing starter set. I can't believe it's crafted. That way you can make sure you get that medium, heavy, and light pieces all in it. It's super good. Let's put it this way. I actually have a full set of legendary Julianos. I made this legendary gear when Hrothgar actually came out. So that was literally years ago, and I still use it on characters. Whenever I have a new character that hits, that just hits level 50 or champion point 160 or whatever, I break out the Julianos set. It is a very solid set. You will use it for years and years to come, so don't deconstruct it when you're done, when you replace it with a better set. Super solid set, great set. Please go craft yourself one as soon as you hit champion point 160, and wear that while you farm your other sets. If you are new to the game and therefore you really only have 160 champion points, and once you hit level 50 you didn't get all of them back like I do when I hit level 50, I want you to go farm Crypt of Hearts 1. Crypt of Hearts 1 is a fairly simple dungeon that I believe in you, you can do it on Vet. Now, you're actually going to be farming this dungeon for 2 different items. You're going to be farming it for the Lich set and the Alhambris set. I love this dungeon because you can farm 2 different sets all in one dungeon. It's beautiful. Alright, so Lich. What does this do? When you are champion point 160 or champion point 200 or champion point 400 even, you're going to probably have trouble sustaining. This set will help you hugely with sustain, and I've tested it out. It's not a huge DPS loss, and it will make you more comfortable. I promise. Really solid set for low champion point folks. Go ahead and farm the Lich set. Something really good to know about the Lich set is that you can front bar this set or back bar this set. So if you only find one weapon, you can go ahead and only put one weapon on and then wear 3 body pieces or jewelry pieces or whatever. I really recommend the jewelry. And because the cooldown is so long, you're going to be flipping between your 2 bars all the time. It doesn't matter if you don't have the 5-piece active all the time. Though, of course, it kind of is nice to have it active all the time because then you also get that 4-piece bonus of Magicka recovery. Lich is a really good starter set when you just hit your champion point 160. And like I said, that extra bonus, You can also be farming your first monster set at the same time. Alambris is really, really good for sorcerers because you do a lot of shock damage just from your class abilities, plus you're rocking that front bar Inferno Staff. Go ahead and get Alambris. Like I said, it comes from Crypt of Hearts 1. That is where the monster helmet drops. You're also going to need to be doing Undaunted pledges. I have a guide up on my YouTube if you're wondering what the heck those are. And you're going to want to be opening up Glirion's chest. That is the guy who's going to have the shoulder pieces for Alambris. Alambris, super solid set. I still love using it on my Sorc. It procs a lot. And like I said, it's a fairly easy dungeon that you can be farming Lich in at the same time. So as a recap, if you're a fresh Champion Point 160 or just generally not a max Champion Point character, go ahead and wear Alambris and Lich, which can both be farmed in Crypt of Hearts 1, and match that up with Julianos, which can be crafted in Hrothgar. Something to note, when you very first hit Champion Point 160 and you're farming this gear, focus on having full sets before you focus on having good traits. Wearing a monster set, even if it's reinforced and an impan or something, is going to do you more good than not wearing a monster set at all. So go ahead and as you're farming that Lich, wear it, even if it's reinforced or whatever, and just try to farm for better traits. But go ahead, having all the 5-piece set bonuses and all that is more important than the traits that are on the gear. So use the crappy traits for the time being until you can farm something better. Now, let's say that now you are actually comfortable with your sustain and you think you don't need Lich anymore. Well, while you were, trying to gain all those champion points, I'm hoping that you were out exploring the game and possibly farming some of these other sets I'm about to bring up. A great set to have is Sororia. Sororia requires you own the Somerset chapter because it is acquired from the Cloudrest trial, meaning you cannot buy it from guild stores, etc. You have to be in a group who completes it. Someone in your group can give it to you or trade it for you, but a 5-piece Sororia is definitely what you're going to want. It is definitely considered best in slot and really, really good. Go ahead and replace your Lich with some Sororia, but don't worry if you don't do trials, because a trial is a 12-man fiasco. We have other options for you. Now, for Sororia, you might be a little bit concerned about staying in your circle. So Sororia does something really cool. It adds a flat percentage bonus to the damage you do to monsters in trials, dungeons, and arenas, but also dealing direct damage with a single target ability creates a ring of fire beneath you for 10 seconds. Being in this ring of fire gives you spell damage, ring of fire can stack, yada yada yada. So what's really cool is if you're doing your weaving, a light attack actually counts as direct damage. There is that ring of fire. So as long as you are in this ring, which as you can see it is actually pretty ample room to move around so that you're not getting hit by ground AoEs from enemies and whatnot, you can still move around within your ring. And you can move out and then move back in because the buff does stick to you for a couple seconds. So don't be too worried about not always being in the ring. Of course, as you keep doing direct damage attacks, this ring is actually multiplying, though it's always going to be in the same spot, no matter where you're standing when you're adding that extra spell damage. That is how Sororia works. The game plan is to try to stay in this ring, though don't be afraid if you have to leave it every once in a while anyways. Another set that is considered best in slot right now is Spell Strategist. Keep in mind though that Spell Strategist, you must PvP. It is a PvP reward. You get it in rewards for the worthy. You get those for gaining AP, whether it be in Cyrodiil or Battlegrounds. So you do need to PvP, or you can buy it on guild traders from other players. Keep in mind, this is now considered best in slot and therefore is ridiculously expensive. Both Sororia and Spell Strategist can be front barred, meaning you can wear 3 pieces anywhere on your jewelry or armor and then only have one weapon having them. It is generally thought to have your Spell Strategist, One Bard, and your Sororia on all the time, but you can go ahead and do whatever you want. Spell Strategist is a single target only set, and this is all about having to light attack. So keep in mind, if you're not very good at doing your light attacks and doing your weaving, this set is not going to be very good for you, and go ahead and use something different. How you know Spell Strategist is working is, after you do a light attack, you're going to see a purplish ball glow over your enemy. Keep in mind, you can only put that on one enemy at a time. That's the only thing, it only works on one enemy at a time. As long as that little ball is on there, you are going to be doing that have that extra spell damage against that single enemy. And there you can see there's my Sororia circle, and there's my Spell Strategist circle. That is how you know that this set is actually working. The next best in slot item I'm going to mention is your Maelstrom Staff. A Maelstrom Staff is earned in Veteran Maelstrom Arena, and that is extremely difficult, so don't feel bad. But Maelstrom Staffs do add quite a lot of damage as long as you're doing your weaving correctly. Your light and heavy attacks deal an additional damage to your enemies in your Wall of Elements. Every build of a Magicka character is going to have Wall of Elements, including all of my Sorcerer builds. Huge damage here, but Veteran Maelstrom Arena is no joke, and it is very difficult. But that is why I mentioned that both Sororia and Spell Strategist can be front barred, because in order to use both of those along with a Maelstrom Staff, one of your sets is going to be required to be front barred. Generally, it's best to use Spell Strategist front barred, therefore you only have the 4 and 5 pieces when you're on your front bar. But you can also do that with Sororia. But Maelstrom Staff, if you have one, huge DPS increase, go ahead and use it, but don't feel bad if you don't have one. You can also just use your normal set stabs. So that is what is best in slot. So let's say that you can't do Vet Maelstrom Arena, you don't do trials, and just for some reason or another, that's not a realistic goal for you at this time. I'm going to go over some other sets that are really good on Magicka Sorcerers. Mother's Sorrow. Mother's Sorrow is a really good set. Mother's Sorrow is also an overland set. That means that you can get it by doing overland content like beating up world bosses, doing delves, going into public dungeons, and just scavenging chests. You'll need to be doing all those things in Deshaan, which is in Ebonheart Pact territory, but it's also part of the base game. So this is a really good base game set that you can farm yourself, or you can purchase off of guild traders, trade with other players. Lots of ways to get this set, and it is a really solid Magicka set. Zen is a monster set that's probably actually better than Alhambris, but you need to stay pretty close in order for it to proc. As well, the dungeon, the veteran dungeon you get it from is Scalecaller, which is considered a pretty difficult dungeon. But if you can get your hands on a Zen monster set and you know you can stay close in all of your fights, it is a fantastic monster set to be using on a Magicka source. Some other weapon choices that you have, let's say you want to use fancy weapons, but you don't have your Maelstrom Staff, you can go ahead and use an Asylum Staff. Of course, you need to be using Force Shock or Crushing Shock, which I always recommend Crushing Shock, in your build in order for this to do anything at all. But the Asylum Staff is really solid, and I still use it on my Magicka Sorcerer. What it is every third cast of Force Shock or Crushing Shock will always apply Burning, Concussion, and Chilled status effects. Of course, all three of those need to be within 10 seconds of each other, but when Crushing Shock is your spamble, that's a pretty easy criteria to meet. You can find the Asylum Staff in the Asylum Sanctorium Trial, which is a mini trial, but you do require the Clockwork City DLC in order to be able to go do that trial and get the staff. Personally, whenever I use my Asylum Staff, I do not use Mage's Wrath in my build, but anytime I'm not using Asylum Staff, I do use Mage's Wrath. Just some food for thought. Another thing you could be using is a Master Staff. Now, Master Staffs are a base game item. You need to do Veteran Dragonstar Arena with friends. It's a 4-player arena in order for a chance to get a Master Weapon, which could be a Master Inferno Staff. Now, maybe you already have one from way back in the day, or you just want to be able to use it because you want to get use out of cool gear that you once upon a time picked up. You will need to use the Destructive Touch ability. I did include that in some of my rotations in our last Magicka sorcerer guide. But Master Staff, you definitely can make use of it. Is it best in slot? No, but hey, sometimes we just like to use the gear we have. Other sets to consider is Burning Spellweave. Burning Spellweave can come from City of Ash 1 or 2 dungeons. City of Ash 1 is a lot easier than City of Ash 2. I really recommend if you're going to farm this, you farm it in City of Ash 1. Now, I am not a big believer on using Burning Spellweave on a Magicka Sorcerer. I don't think it's actually that great. I love it on my Magplar. I think it's great on my Magplar. But if you want to use Burning Spellweave because maybe you already have it, or you just love that dungeon so you ended up with a whole bunch of it, or you just really want to use Burning Spellweave for some reason, I would really, really recommend using both front and back bar Inferno Staffs in order to try to get this set to proc as much as you want it to. Another set used to be best in slot, Mechanical Acuity. Now, if you do not already own this set, I do not recommend going and making it. It's not as good as it used to be. But if you already had a Mechanical Acuity set from prior, go ahead and use it on your Magicka Sorcerer. It is actually a really good set still, especially if you're using Force Pulse or Crushing Shock. You need to be using one of those abilities, though, in order to make this set still make sense, because one ability attack from Crushing Shock counts as 3 direct damage attacks, therefore you have a really good chance of proccing this set. How do you know Mechanical Acuity is procced? Go ahead and look at my screen. You see that blue border? That means my Mechanical Acuity is procced, and all the damage I'm doing is critical. Netch's Touch. Netch's Touch can be farmed in Darkshade 1 and 2 group dungeons. Darkshade 1, once again, whole lot easier than Darkshade 2. If you're going to farm Netch's Touch, really recommend farming Darkshade 1. Now, Netch's Touch is not best in slot, but you know what it's really cool for? It's really cool for a thematic shock, sorcerer build. Because this set adds spell damage just to your shock abilities. So if you want to go kind of with a themed build, and because you're, lightning, sorcerer, go ahead and use Netch's Touch. It's definitely a solid set, not best in slot, but hey, it is a Magicka set. You do use a lot of shock abilities. Go ahead and use this set. It's a fun set, especially for a themed build. I keep saying this is not a guide for pet Sorcs, but if for some reason you are determined to watch this guide and you have a pet Sorc, you really want to use Necropotence or Necropotence, or however the heck you say this. You farm it in Overland Rivenspire. That is the set it's a must-have if you are a pet Sorc, but that's not what this video is about. But just in case you're watching, there you go. Now, let's say you don't have any of those sets and just don't know what to do. Pick literally any Magicka base set, and for usually what that means is as long as a set is light, usually it's going to have to do with Magicka. So if a set is light, it probably has Magicka type spell bonuses or Magicka type bonuses to the set. Go ahead and use it. Seriously, anything with Magicka bonuses is going to be better than not wearing a set at all. I did give you some of the top quality kind of sets, trying to give you a beginner to end game. Let me know your thoughts. Are there any sets that you're kind of wondering about? Go ahead and ask me, or maybe just look up on the internet, see if you see any builds using them. But just remember all the basics I went over at the beginning of this video, and you should have a little more freedom in choosing your sets. Thank you for joining me for Magicka Sorc School number 3. If you haven't, be sure to check in the description below for a link to the written version of this guide, as well to the playlist that'll show you the other parts of Magicka Sorcerer School, where we go over rotation and a general overview. And I can't wait to bring out the next part of this video for you. Thank you for joining me. I'm Miss Biz. Bye for now.